My next guest has got another big fight, this time against Alex Morono at UFC 277 in Dallas, July 30th. It's Matthew Semelsberger back here on the program. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, James. Good to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you too, man. And we were talking about the hair off air. Is it because it's summer, going for a different look? What's with the gladiator look?
Yeah, so I used to have long hair back in college, like really like longer than this actually. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's just kind of like a warrior thing, man. I like having the long hair. And yeah, I don't know, man. I have this like vision in my head that I don't cut my hair until I hang up the gloves. So it's like we'll see how long it gets, man.
Jeez, okay. Well, don't want you looking like Jesus. It's probably a long career for you, so we'll see what happens there, man. But I mentioned it there, Alex Morono. Just how excited were you to get this matchup? Because this has got fight of the night written all over it.
Oh, dude, super excited. So definitely wanted a big step up in competition, go against somebody who has a lot of fights, and the UFC gave me just that in Alex Morono. So very excited for this matchup. Obviously, he loves to go out there and trade with people. So I'm excited, man. Very excited.
This happens every now and then with the matchmaking, but we get two guys that, I think should be ranked and are fighting each other. Do you kind of see it that way? Like that you guys are right on the cusp of like, breaking into that top 15 is sort of the winner going in there in this matchup?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, to be honest, probably more Alex, just because he's had more fights and stuff like that. And for myself, like I've obviously shown the ability to like finish fights and show my competitiveness and stuff like that. But so more so for him, but for me, definitely taking out a guy like Alex is going to put me right in that position to be right on the cusp of rankings, or at least the next fight, maybe get a ranked opponent.
And obviously he's a Texas guy. This fight's in Dallas. Do you like that being, the guy going in enemy territory?
Oh yeah, that's just like I don't know why, man. This has always been my like a thing about me. I love doing that, man. Back when I was like an amateur, or even like a couple of pro fights, I would go out to like New York City and New York and fight guys that were all from New York and stuff like that. I got the booze coming from the crowd. So I don't know, man. Something about it. It's just like an extra element to the challenge.
Morono's good everywhere. 21-7 record, good stand-up, good ground game. How are you looking at this fight from a style perspective?
Style perspective, well, it's interesting because he's got a second-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's also got a black belt in taekwondo, if I'm not mistaken, or some,
Yeah.
I forget what traditional martial art. But then you look at his fights, at least as of the late, and he obviously likes to stand. And I know he talks about being a student of the game, and he very much is. Even hearing like the broadcasters talk about how much he knows about fighting, but then you see him go out there and he's technical, but at a certain point, the dude just likes to fight and go wild. So it's interesting because I see a lot of that in myself as well. Like I like to be technical, I like to be smart, but at a certain point, man, I just got to go out there and fight. So I think it's like two similar guys with two kind of similar mindsets and attitudes. So I think that something's just brewing that's going to be pretty big.
We got a bit of time before the fight. How's camp going so far? Who you've been working with? Who have been some of the main guys helping you get ready for battle?
Yeah, so doing a lot of work with my coaches. So the one thing about at least in Maryland or like the DMV area and stuff like that, we don't have like a lot of like high level fighters concentrated into one gym. So I've been traveling out to a bunch of different places, namely this place out in Virginia called Kaizen MMA. They got a bunch of guys that have been the UFC, Bellator. Forgive me. There's this one Russian dude that I worked with. I didn't even know that he was like pretty big until after I went home and looked him up, and he was like got like 200,000 followers on Instagram and stuff like that. So I've been bouncing around doing a lot of cross training and stuff like that with different fighters. But then in terms of like my coaches, always have Sebastian and John with me. John being black belt in jiu-jitsu and having I think he had over. Let's say he had like 15 professional MMA fights. And then Sebastian came from like a very renowned place out in Milwaukee in Rufus Sport. And then I've been working a lot with my coach Southside. He's a boxing guy. He's from the Baltimore area. He's been boxing his whole life. But in terms of like my teammates, I got Josh Jackson, who's been one of my big training partners. He just fought and got a win not too long ago. He did break his hand though, so it sucks in a way. But yeah, man, honestly, kind of like I've told you before, man, like I don't have a lot of like super high level guys in terms of like competitive experience that I'm working with, but I do have a lot of guys who have a lot of training experience. And that's one of the cool things I think, and a unique thing about me is it's kind of like I kind of got like a little secret thing going on here, man. Like I'm working with like these secret ninjas, these secret masters, and then I'm getting to go out and put all that stuff to the test in the fight. So training camp's been going good though, man. In terms of like the work been put in and the focus that's being put in, it's like the highest I've ever been at. You know, it's been tough, obviously, too, at the same time. So, because I'm pushing the bill, trying to challenge myself. So, it's been really good, man. Overall, it's been hard, but it's been good.
And a custom camp by the sounds of it. Like, and we've talked about this before, how you know, some guys go to a big gym, they got to go in the gym schedule. You are picking and choosing sort of what you want to do, and you're getting a variety. You talked about some of the up and comers. I mean, that's key, I'm sure, for getting different looks, right? If you got a guy who's more established, maybe he's not going to give you the same look as, say, an amateur is you don't know anything about, right? So is it kind of like that where you're just kind of picking and choosing what works for you, especially with this upcoming fight?
Yeah, in a way, for sure. But I definitely don't, you know, I definitely don't shy away from working with higher level guys. Like, I used to actually work with a lot of high level guys earlier in my career when I was like an amateur and like early pro. And then just kind of like some people went their separate ways, you know, kind of lost some connections here and there. So it's like it's kind of one of those things where I've got a lot of work in with high level guys earlier in my career. And then I kind of like use that like raw sparring experience to kind of build off of it. Like I used to go out to Master Lloyd Irvin's place in Camp Springs, Maryland. And that's where like Sadiq Yusuf is from. Tafan used to spar with big ass Tafan. That was scary.
I bet. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be sparring with him.
This dude, Ong La, he
in one championship. He's in. He's at Killcliff now, which used to be called Sanford MMA. I don't know if you know they changed the name of the gym. So
yeah, I saw that. That's cool, man. Yeah, actually, I want to say like 3 years ago, I'd gone down to Florida and actually trained for a few days with Ong. Unfortunately, I got like really, really sick a few days in, so I had to call the trip a little bit early. But you know, I got to get back into sparring with him. I got to meet like Henry Hoopt and all those guys, and like it was like an eye opener. So like it sucked, man, because I got really sick. And honestly, like I would have probably gotten the crap beaten out of me anyway, but it just made it that much worse. So it's like I couldn't even train, man. But I did get to like open my eyes to like what some of the highest level people are doing. And I took my notes, man. As crappy as I felt while I was out there, I took notes and I took those right back to Maryland with me. And I've kind of been, like you said, man, I've been kind of like coming up with my own little recipe for my training. And that kind of makes sense. Like there's no one size fits all approach, I feel like. And for me, especially, I kind of have to like do my own thing and figure my own thing out. But that's not without the help of like coaches and stuff like that. You know, I'm not just saying like I'm a know-it-all or anything like that by any means. I just like doing things my own way and figuring things out my own way, especially when it comes to like my training schedule and how I like to approach like building up to like a fight.
How do you see this fight unfolding? One thing with Alex, pretty durable guy. He's very tough to take out. How do you envision the fight going down?
Honestly, man, I think it's going to be a thriller. I think it's going to be a thriller. It's going to have a very sudden ending. So like I give all respect to Alex for sure. And the dude's obviously a student of the game, has a lot of experience. But I just think I have that element to me, man, where I just have that power. I have that ability, that explosiveness that if I'm using my head correctly and I'm being smart and I find the opening and I connect, it's over. So yeah. Honestly, I think it's going to be a thriller up into that point where I find that connection and find those patterns and stuff like that I'm looking for. So it's going to be a crazy fight up until I find that moment. And then it's going to be over very quickly, I think.
You said thriller twice. Any plans to come out to thriller when you walk to the cage?
Maybe.
That would be awesome. Just a suggestion. I want my 10% if that happens. Top of your weight class, we got a really exciting welterweight title fight between Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards. It's a rematch. They fought, I think, way back in 2015. How do you see that fight playing out? Because I'm sure you're keeping an eye on what's going on at the top of your division.
Yeah, man. It's tough. I mean, I definitely give the edge to Usman, man. The dude's just been unstoppable. And then also at the same time, that dude's work ethic is like stupid high. Like, and that's one thing that I admire about him a lot is that, like, you know, a lot of people, like a lot of champs will get the belt, and then whether consciously or subconsciously, they kind of let their work ethic slip. You know what I mean? It's like they've reached to this pinnacle, and then it's like, what's left there to do? But that dude definitely seems like he's gotten to the belt, and he has like even more he wants to do with it. So if I had to guess, I'm gonna go with Usman, and he's just like a super well-rounded fighter. But at the same time, I think that Leon probably stands the best chance out of pretty much anyone that he's fought yet. It's like sad to say, but like people forget what he did for 24 minutes against Nate Diaz. But then, you know, obviously the last minute kind of in a way erased it, quote unquote. Not really, but for a lot of people, they, you know, they're like, oh, Nate won that fight, this and that. I'm like, did you not see what happened? Like the whole fight? So yeah, I'm gonna go with Usman on that one.
I imagine you want to get one more, maybe two more fights in this year. Is that kind of what you're looking at scheduling wise, not looking past, of course, the upcoming fight?
Yeah, for sure, man. I got I mean, don't get me wrong, fighting comes first, man, but there's like some stuff coming up in like September. Like my sister's getting married. Like one of my best friends is getting married and stuff like that. So ideally, man, I'd like to get this fight in and either a quick one after that, or maybe take a little bit of a break till after September and then pop two in before the end of the year. But I definitely want to get active and I want to stay active, man. It's like I'm not getting any younger, and I'm hitting my stride a lot with like my training and all that. So it's like trying to match up the, you know, my prime physical condition with like my fighting ability. You know, I want to hit that sweet spot, right? Like it's like a timing thing, man. I've always been pretty good at timing things. So I think if I can time like my physical condition with my fighting ability and all that I've been gaining in the training room, I think, you know what I mean, I can make a serious run at this thing. So so yeah, I'd like to get like a few more in if I can.
How many more fights you have left on your contract? Do you know?
3.
Oh, cool. Oh, so that the last fight was the first one on the new one then, because they usually you sign 4, right?
Yeah. So after I beat Martin Sano, that was when my first contract had run up, and then I got the new one renewed, and that's when I fought AJ for my first one on this second one.
That's right. Okay, that makes sense. And before we go, downtime. I know you don't get much of it. You watching any Netflix? You doing anything interesting outside of training? What do you got going on?
Yeah, man. So I finally got Disney Plus. So I've been watching a lot of like the Star Wars stuff. So like Obi-Wan. Finally sat down and watched all the Mandalorian. Rewatched like all the old Star Wars movies and like the early 2000s ones with like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Anakin and stuff like that. So getting back into my Star Wars grind for sure. And then I've also like bought a few new comics to get into.
Oh, cool.
A couple of big ones like compendiums and like pretty much a big stack book of like collection of stuff. So just been nerding out with that stuff, man. Playing a little bit of video games, but honestly, man, I haven't really had the will to play my PS4 as much, especially this camp. So I'm going to take that as a good sign that I'm focused on the fight completely.
And I guess too, like as an adult, you know, there's always that stigma around comic books and stuff like, oh, it's for, you know, kids and stuff, but you're a fighter. So I'm sure no one's going to give you crap if you're going into the comic book store and buying something, right?
Oh yeah, no, not at all, man.
Especially with this look, man, I'd be afraid if, you know, I said anything, right? So
yeah, sometimes I get weird looks in the comic book store because I'll be wearing like a cutoff and it's like, I'm like pretty big dude. So I'm like, just, you know, picking up Star Wars comics and then kind of looking over my shoulder and people are just like, that's weird.
yeah, it doesn't really fit the bill. But I tell you what does fit the bill, man. UFC 277. This fight is awesome. July 30th. Matt, thanks so much for the time. If there's anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media you want to plug, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't really have any sponsorships going on right now, but you know, I just want to thank my family, thank all my friends, thank all the people out there on Twitter, IG who hit me up and wish me luck. And you know, you know, like I get a lot of DMs and stuff like that from people. You know what I mean? And it might be something as simple as like, hey man, I'm a big fan, this, that. But then there's also people who have been hitting me up and like, you know, tell me something that might be serious that's going on with their life. So anybody who's been hitting me up out there, I appreciate you guys, you know, trusting me to either, you know, give you advice or just be an ear to listen to. So appreciate that. And then one more thing, I just linked up with John Fitz Meals. They're a meal prep biz here in like the DMV area. They got a lot of they do a lot of work for like athletics, different gyms and different athletes. So shout out to them for hooking me up with some good food. And yeah, man, that's about it.